Trust wounding. How trust issues show up in our life from the wounded child, which shows up through our relationships, through even what we attract into our life, our work, our health, and our business. My name is Irene Burns. I'm a soul empowerment coach, healer, therapist, and I'm also a spiritual business strategist. And today we're going to explore a little bit more about some of the common signs and symptoms of trust wounding. And with some of the main core wounding, sometimes they can be, similar correlations to other types of wounding. But today we're going to look specifically at what tends to be mostly a trust wound. So trust wounding is wounding of one of the core wounds that we have as a child. And that core wounding leads to lack of trust within ourselves, lack of trust in others, and lack of trust even in life, in the world. It's this insecurity, this fear, and that can form for all sorts of reasons. Now, in many ways, I suppose most of humanity has some sort of trust issues. But obviously, some people, it's, really such a strong pattern in their life that it disables many of the relationships. It can cause a lot of insecurity. It can cause some people to be very aloof and withdrawn and, so afraid to be hurt that they avoid certain situations and, as I said, relationships. Now, this can impact, obviously, your life and your relationships, also your health, your well-being, and even your business or fulfilling your purpose in so many levels. Because when, at a core level, if you have a lot of trust issues, there can be a lot of build-up of not just fear and anxiety, insecureness, but it can lead to a lot of bitterness and suspiciousness. And sometimes that can come out in quite extremes where people have very black and white thinking, and they might look at like categories of people as, oh, you should be suspicious of them, or they're this, they're that. It's like, you're good, they're bad, or they're bad, they're good, they're all this kind of thing, where there can be polarity. And one of the things that you notice we all, of course, will have different layers to this. One of the things I notice sometimes when I'm running groups and community type things, and even when I used to go out and do training and things like that, those with trust wounding tend to sit on, it's like they put themselves on the outside, the outskirts, and they don't even realise it. They take the time to form relationships. They take the time to be part of that group. Now, trust wounding is not all bad. It's like every type of wounding. There's a light aspect to it and a shadow aspect. If you think about a child, if a child does not learn that some things are not to be trusted and everything is not what it appears, the child will grow up very naive and can put themselves in very, very dangerous and harmful situations. And that's one of the, it's almost like a life skill. It's about a life skill in some ways, learning to trust yourself, trust your inner guidance, your inner intuition and discernment without, you being led by your actual fear. Because there's a fine line. Sometimes people think they're being led by their intuition, but it's actually their suspicion. and it's the actual wounding. And you often see this in people who really struggle with certain types of relationships, don't have many relationships, and don't form, relationships easy. Now, we all can maybe have also trust issues in different areas in life. I remember going to a friend of mine's workshop many years ago, and something was really a bit of an eye-opener. I had brought a friend of mine who had unfortunately just recently lost her husband, and we were exploring some belief systems. And sometimes when you explore belief systems, we don't even realize what belief systems are sitting under the surface. And sometimes it's a never ending aspect in some levels, because we have so many thousands of thoughts a day and so many beliefs. But one of the things that I realized after she shared something was we had a similar belief that at that point I believed that the world was not a nice place to be, but it was where I was at that point in my own life, and and it was my own lack of trust and fear. And we all can have different areas. For me, I had a lot of lack of trust in the medical system for a lot of reasons. And my lack of trust but moved me to learn how to be more discerning, how it gave me really valuable skills in my life to take my power back, because when we give over too much trust and we trust other people complicitly, there's a fine line between trusting and actually giving your power and your sovereignty over to another individual or another human being. And I realized quite early on that at some level that people were giving their power over to people that really thought they were maybe doing the best for maybe their patients and their clients or whatever. But the reality was they couldn't always do that. It was in many ways impossible, because they didn't have the time, the energy, or even sometimes level of compassion and empathy, because they were burnt out, to be able to do the job properly. And that led me to recognize that I had to learn to trust myself. I was lucky that I was encouraged to use my intuition, but my dad would always say, your gut. Like everyone, I gave my power over. Lots of people, I was very highly empathic and highly sensitive. And what a lot of people would call very fragile in some way. As a child, I was tiny. So people treated me like fragile. And being so sensitive and empathic to other people wounding and being able to feel it and see it in other ways that I didn't realize other people were seeing it, was that I kind of struggle to understand how to harness healthy boundaries and to work with those gifts. And it wasn't till later on in my life when I started to learn how to harness my super gifts and not to see those gifts as shameful or something that was odd or a weakness, right? Because often it's like everything, when people have gifts or skills that other people don't understand, or a bit of insight and wisdom and other people don't understand, other people can berate you. Other people can or struggle because they don't have that specific gift. They'll have their own superpowers, but often human nature, unfortunately, will sometimes just want something that someone else has. And when you can understand from your inner child perspective, everybody is just trying to survive, and that's what happens with your inner child wounding. I always like to look at inner child work from when you're having issues with adults, is looking at them from a child's perspective. And if you drop into seeing the people that you're dealing with as children, you start to see the patterns that play out, and it's the way of coping at that time. They protect themselves, and they often don't really know how else to change. And sometimes it's so deeply embedded, and there can be lots of things that someone on the surface doesn't understand why that pattern has been a really important part of their life, and sometimes is very much, it protects them, and it's worked for certain situations, right? But obviously, as we bring these things into our adulthood, and we bring them into our relationships, or start interfering with our health or our purpose or work, then you have all sorts of other problems. Now, trust wounding, once you understand there's a trust wounding, that's halfway there. But it's also looking at how the trust wounding shows up. Like any type of core wound, it's recognizing how it shows up. And one of the, sometimes you see in people who, when they were younger, they maybe didn't find it easy to make friends. They were maybe introverted, shy, and formed a relationship that was kind of their all, and then they felt completely abandoned, and then you've got the abandonment wound, but they felt completely let down, and a lack of trust, where someone confide in something that was really deeply important to them, and that's broken, or something that just, when you look at people with broken marriages, there can be a lot of trust there in both sides, where people don't trust themselves, or they don't trust other people, and those wounds can go very deep, and as I said, they can start leading into sometimes other types of core wounding, and they can be all interrelated. Now, there is all types of inner child work and all sorts of things that we can do to shift. I never ever believe that there's a one size fit approach. I would run from anyone that says that, because it's just them coming from their ego, and they're often usually talking about the modalities or strategies that they use. The only thing I would say, and I know this comes across judgmental, but also we have a society now where many people dip into a lot of work, and they don't really fully understand the psych or the psychology, or really understand trauma. So it's important that when you are choosing someone to work with, you choose someone that has some sort of knowledge and experience. They're not just done a couple of months course or something, and don't really understand the psychology or the energy of trauma, right? Because I know I've had so many clients that have had horrendous experiences. I've had some horrendous experiences myself with people who thought they were well equipped to do some inner child work, and they missed really important basics. And and when you miss important basics, you can actually end up re-traumatizing and reinforcing someone's trauma. It's like lots of things. It's like a lot of deep unconscious work. Sometimes you see that with sometimes people like hypnotherapists, or people who do certain types of unconscious work with belief systems, but have only done a few days, and don't really have maybe a good vocabulary, or they haven't really mastered their skills. So it's really, really important that whenever you're getting any help, the first thing you want to do is that you want to make sure that you're in safe hands. Okay, and that's really, really important. And it's also really important that you take things in your own step by step, because even connecting with your inner child and working on that level, everybody has different, almost, it's like a layers of an onion. And some of the layers sometimes take a little bit more time to get through, other times you make huge shifts. And we all are a work in progress, right? And if you also, there's a lot of myths that people think that, if they've done so much work, inner child work, for so many years, even a decade or something, well, that's them solved. No, I'm afraid that doesn't work like that. Of course, I think we're in a point in society and point in the collective course, that people can make bigger shifts in their healing and there's and moving forward than they've ever been able to do, because there's lots of things going on. There's a lot of things going on energetically that are there to support us. But a therapist that tells you that they've healed all their wounds, run again as fast as you can, because that's someone that doesn't really understand what they're talking about and doesn't understand the human psyche and the fact that we're actually human. We're maybe we're having a human experience. We're obviously spiritual, but what I mean is we are living on the human level, certainly at the moment. If you would like some support in this area, and you want to check out some of my courses, this is so I'm doing this video in April, and I do actually have a 2-part short mini workshop, which is a fun and creative workshop called Empower Your Inner Child, and it's like heal or empower the adult you, or hero you, and it's all about it's through creative writing, and it's what I call fairy tale writing, and it's don't let the name make you think that it's all just fluffy. It's fun, it's creative and inspiring, but it also helps you look at some of the narratives that are playing out and some of the wounding that is keeping you stuck. And often when we look at a life, and we look at a life from a higher perspective and a more deeper and spiritual perspective, and we'll look at the patterns that have played out and the narrative that has played out so far, we start to see things from a different perspective. And we can use that as great fuel to create a new narrative and help you also see in those challenges some of the superpowers and the gifts and skills that you've learned along the way. Because one of the things that I know, we're living in a very busy world. One of my main areas of expertise for 20 years was stress management. And one of the things that we know is that people are often so busy, so distracted, and so focused on the next thing that they don't recognize a lot of the patterns that are running. We all have blind spots, but also it's not just about the patterns that are running. It's about recognizing, you might say, well, I'm not very good, I've kept attracting this, or this seems to be a problem continuing my life. But we tend to berate ourselves and look at that from such a negative, narrow, and low perspective, that we don't see the gifts and the power in it and what it was really teaching us, what was the deeper lessons and what was really going on. And when you can shift someone's and help them see things from a more deeper spiritual perspective, and actually help let them see some of the actual gifts, because often a shadow element at the opposite side of that is actually a superpower. It's just people don't recognize, or they don't know how to harness that gift. And one of the examples I can give you is that most of my life I was classed as so too sensitive. And in many ways, you could class me as too empathic, because I remember a friend of mine at one point, a male friend of mine, says to me, "Eileen, you're so soft that it's like somebody could get a boot and just squash you." And I was horrified that people actually saw me that way. But what it was I was so consciously aware of other people's pain and suffering and why they did things, that I let them off, that I didn't create boundaries. I knew often what they were doing. Now, there was times in my life, of course, like everybody, a child that was gullible, a teenager that was gullible. There was a certain amount of gullibleness in relation to trusting. And then I had to get worldly wise, and and I could often see the pain and emotional charge, or listening, I could sense things, I could get premonitions in a certain psychic element where I saw things that, were quite, at the time found quite overwhelming at times, because it was, I would know things before people would actually tell me. And then when they told me, it was a relief, because, you thought you were going crazy, but you wondered why you knew these things. But what happened out of that from a child, for example, I was always said, it was always classed that was, oh my God, because I was too sensitive. I was very disconnected from my power, right? So my power was there, and my power was in those gifts, right? But I didn't know how to utilize it, and I didn't know how to use my own sovereignty and to step into my power. And as an adult, as I've learned how to step more into my power and into my sovereignty, and to learn how to harness those empathic and sensitive gifts, it's been a blessing in so many areas of life. It's helped me make so much wiser decisions and healthier decisions when, other people were trying to overpower me to do things that definitely were not in my interests. And we're all work in progress in these areas. If you would like help in any of these, the areas I've talked about, or other types of wounding, check out my links below. I am now back to offering some one-to-one support. And if this is something that you would like help with, check out the links and check out my Empower Your Inner Child to Empower the Hero You fairy tale writing workshop that starts this Saturday, I think is it the 24th, 20, I think it's the 20th, sorry, my dates, but it's this Saturday, we're in April 2024. It's 2-part series. It's a short mini workshop, an hour and a half each session, and it starts this Saturday at 10 o'clock to 11:30, and that's British summer time. It would be lovely to see you. It's the benefits of this workshop is that you have a template, and you'll have some meditations and things that you can actually keep working on. So it's not just about looking, exploring one wounding or something that's coming up or something that remember, but you can use it for other situations. And it can be really helpful for people in business who are maybe lacking confidence or self-esteem in their next step, or really where their power gifts, and it can help them once they understand and recognise their natural traits and gifts, how to basically promote themselves in a very natural, powerful, yet authentic way. And, with everything that's going on in the collective at the moment, with everything that's going on around the world, people want authenticity. People are sick of a lot of the illusion, the manipulative types of marketing, and they're sick of, not getting the real deal. And when you understand what is your real deal, what is behind you, what is the backbone behind you, you see yourself and you see your purpose, and even your business a lot more differently. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day and week. Bye for now.